Leinster run up a big score against Zebre as they look to exercise some of the demons from last week's Champions Cup exit. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Leinster picked a strong side for this one. I'm sure that European exit had a big influence on that. I think if they were still in the competition, probably would have seen a bit more rotation in this one. But I think Leo Cullen given some of the guys a chance to maybe get back a little bit of confidence and put a little bit to bed. It's kind of hard, right? But at least move on a little bit from it. And then couple that with the fact that Zebre made 10 changes with an eye on next week. This scoreline, maybe not inevitable, but certainly a big possibility. And that's what we saw. So Leinster strike off a line out in the first few minutes. They spread it in field where Conan breaks the line and goes on a diagonal run towards the corner. So he's coming back to the side where the line out happened on, where support is, and then he offloads to Kelleher to go over, converted with 7 points to nil. A couple minutes later then, Leinster in again. They work the ball to Witt on the left. Van der Fleer rides the tackle of Scott Gregory before sending Luke McGrath over to score. Conversion missed, 12 points to nil. Zebre then have a couple of entries into the Leinster 22, but they struggle with the aggressive defence. First, Barrett shot out of the line to force a knock-on, and then they were forced back out of the 22 the next time they came in before giving a forward pass. We then, at that stage, we'd had, I think, 3 scrums in the game, and pretty sure none of them were completed. Leinster pinged for pushing early twice, and Zebre the same thing once. And then all the way through, the referee kept having to talk to the front rows about the scrum, although the scrum didn't have a massive impact on the game, honestly. Leinster then work it back into 22, and Ryan Bird forces his way over to score, converted for 19 points to nil. Zebre having more success for a little while as they work the ball to the edges of the Leinster defence. Jesse makes a half break and then dabs the kick in behind. There's a race between himself, his teammate Staveli, and Jack Conan, but the ball actually beats them all and it runs dead. Leinster then strike again for the bonus point try, set up a dummy maul from a line out, ring rolls on a nice line, Prendergast through a gap, and he finds Barrett to go over, converted for 26 points to nil. Then they work it back close to the line. James Gibson Park, he's on while McGrath is getting a cut under his eye stapled, and he sends Barrett in for his second try, converted for 33 points to nil. Then Kelleher gets over, but is immediately ruled out because he propelled himself forward from his knees after, he did really well to catch the ball above his head, but no argument about the fact that the try was ruled out, and the referee was right in the spot as well, so there was no messing about with Timo or whatever. They do score, though, off first phase from a scrum, with Lowe scoring in the corner. Prendergast hits the post with a touchdown conversion. 38 points to nil was the halftime score. Into the second half then, Jack Boyle infringes the breakdown. Zebre go up the line into 22. Pitanari spills the ball 5 metres from the line in the tackle, and Leinster counter from their own line. Jimmy O'Brien breaks down the right, finds Barrett in support. He bursts through a tackle, then offloads to Prendergast to score. Probably, if he really wanted his hat-trick, he probably could have ridden the second tackle and got over. So fair play to him for giving the pass, converted for 5 points to nil. Van der Fleer then collects a loose ball off Gregory's arm. It was an up and under, and the ball just kind of broke loose in the 22, and Van der Fleer just has a simple run in to score from there. And yeah, nice handoff on a would-be tackle from him as well as he went over, converted for 52 points to nil. Jordy Barrett then makes a pinpoint cross field kick to Osborne, who collects it and has a run in to score in the corner. Frawley misses the conversion. He's on for Prendergast at this stage, and it's 57 points to nil. Zebre then find a big gap in the Leinster defence. Pitanari goes galloping through it, but he's on his own and he gets isolated as Osborne gets over the ball to win a penalty. A decent chance for them to score there. He was about maybe like between 5 and 10 metres out from the line when he got pulled down, but again, there was no Zebre players anywhere near him. Conan then goes off the back of a scrum, finds Jimmy O'Brien, who breaks down the wing. He gives it inside to Frawley, and Frawley, he's got options inside and out, but decides he's going to back himself. He, brushes off a weak would-be tackle, and then, 2 other kind of half tackles to go over to score. Conversions missed, 68 points to 0. Zebre then finally get over for a score. Garcia going over from close range, but there was a great run from Jesse in the build-up to that, very evasive and getting him on the front foot into the 22, recycle a few times before they finally got over. And the conversion then attempt well off target, 62 points to 5. Ryan Baird then bursts into 22, picks a great line, then offloads to Culhan, who scores, converted for 69 points to 5. And then finally, James Gibson Park makes a half break. Conan then gets through a gap from, because of that nice work by Gibson Park, and in behind, and he puts Osborne over for the final try of the game. Conversion makes it a final score, 76 points to 5. So, emphatic win for Leinster. Not a great performance from Zebre. And Leinster honestly didn't have to work very hard for a lot of their scores. But let's talk about the stats and then we'll come back to the teams. So, let me pull those stats up on the official site now. Okay, there we go. So, 12 tries to 1. There's not much you can say about that in a game like this. Possession was 50-50, but it's pretty obvious who did more with the ball they had. Clean breaks 18 to 5. Defenders beaten 26 to 23. So Leinster scrambling well. Something that they didn't do against Northampton, and generally they do well. But I think Northampton just had the finishers to kind of negate that scramble. Offloads then 20-15 in favour of Leinster, always looking to keep the ball moving, keep it alive. Territory 49% to 51, so Zebre slightly shading that, but again, didn't really matter. Number of tackles 107 to 97, missed tackles 23 to 26. So Leinster for once, having a better tackle success, 73% to 65 than their opposition. But, again, Leinster always kind of low on the tackle success numbers compared to other teams. Then turnovers 1-7 each. Kicks retained 5 for Leinster, 4 for Zebre. It wasn't a game where there was a massive, onus on kicking and competing in the air. Penalties then 5 conceded by Leinster and 4 for Zebre. So, referee didn't have all that much to do other than all the chat that he had when they were lining up for the scrums. On to players then. 17 points for Sam Prendergast. So nice to see him kind of getting back on the horse after that game against Northampton. He's a young player. He's definitely going to learn from that experience, and definitely going to have to kind of improve his game. But I've talked about it a long time before, with this Leinster side, is that it's not just him, it's a lot of the frontline players that, because they don't play certain games in the URC, especially the tour down to South Africa, they don't have very much experience in terms of having to actually dig out a win in a game. And that kind of told in that semi-final. So, but hopefully, kind of, as I said, gain vital experience from that and kind of kick on for next season. I think going on Ireland's tour in the summer is definitely going to be helpful for him as well. That, he missed out on line selection. Personally, I wouldn't have brought him on the lines either. Honestly, I don't think it would be good for him. Certainly, as a young player, you think, oh yeah, it'd be brilliant to go, but you kind of you wonder if it would or not. Potentially going there, sitting on the bench for midweek games, and rather than, going with Ireland and starting games or certainly being heavily involved. 5 points then for Garcia. Jamie Osborne with 2 tries, but, Barrett got 2 tries as well. I would have put his name in there because he was absolutely excellent. Garcia with the lone try for Zebre. Successful carries then. Jack Conan with 10. Absolutely brilliant from 8. And, talking about the Lions again, looks like he potentially, at least, he's going to be the Lions number 8. Obviously, a long way before that is going to be picked. This week I was so busy with work. You probably noticed there was no preview for this round of the URC. I wanted to do that. I wanted to look at the teams in contention for the playoffs as well and their last 2 games. Another video, and if I had time, maybe do a Lions squad video as well. But literally, I was just flat out at work. I was in work all day, then to come home and do an extra 2 or 3 hours of work, so just no time. So apologies for that. As I say, I do this in my spare time, and I do as much as I can in my spare time, and I enjoy it. But when I can't do it, I apologize, but I'm not a professional or anything at this, so sometimes I'm going to miss stuff out. But I always appreciate you guys supporting me and making it, feel like it's really worth my time making these videos. Just interacting with you guys or knowing that you're enjoying the stuff that I do make really does kind of help me out hugely in terms of, making sure that when I find that time, that I do make these videos. But then Gonzalo Garcia with 7 successful carries for Zebre. And on to clean breaks then, Jamie Osborne with 3 for Leinster. And Jesse with 2 for Zebre. I think himself and Garcia, 2 standouts really from the Zebre point of view. Defenders beaten then 3 for Josh van der Fleer and 2 for Simone Jesse. Meters made, Jack Conan with 118, and then Jesse is there again, 103. Offloads, Gary Ringrose with 3, and Stavile with 3 as well for Zebre. Onto defense, number of tackles, Jordy Barrett 11. Scoring tries, creating tries as well, and doing his work in defense too. 12 for Bianchi for Zebre. Turnovers 1. Barrett there again, 3 from him, and then Paella with 2 for Zebre. Okay, so let's quickly talk about each of the teams. So Zebre, much change, 10 changes to their lineup. They definitely have their focus on next week, their last game of the season at home against Connacht. They're targeting that as potentially a 6th win of the season, which would be absolutely massive for a team that early on in the season they were talking about winding them up, and again, when I heard that, I thought it was absolutely crazy, because even before this team started going on that run of wins, you could see season on season they were improving. They were more competitive against teams. Compare them to the Dragons, who were in a similar situation. Now there's clear daylight between those 2 teams, and that's because of the hard work of the players, the coaches, and everyone involved in Zebre, and to just wind them up and then move a team to Rome instead just wouldn't have felt right for me. But I'm glad they went on the run. There obviously was motivation there for players playing for their contracts, and maybe next season they won't hit the same heights, given that it's kind of human nature, right? You pull out all the stops to make sure that you survive, and then the next season, then maybe you drop your standards a little bit, just because that it's first of all, maybe the amount of pressure isn't there as much anymore, but also it's very hard to maintain those kind of levels when it's coming from pressure like that as well. So, but I do expect them to, maybe not better this year, next year, but certainly still to be showing, signs of an upward trend for that team. For Leinster then, big disappointment obviously for them and for us fans that they lost in the Champions Cup semi-final there last week. This result here doesn't change that, but I think it's good that we're seeing frontline players for this game. Now, the question is next week, when I'm pretty sure they're playing Glasgow right in the last game, when they go into that last game, do they again pick a strong team? Because they're going to have that game, and then I think it's a week off because the Champions Cup final is on, and then or are they playing the knockouts in the URC? I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the schedule, but whichever way, personally, I want to see strong teams picked all the way. I don't want to see next week kind of seen as a kind of, just put whoever out for that, and then we'll prepare for the knockout stages, because that's the mistake they've been making year on year on year, since 2021. So hopefully somebody somewhere in the Leinster hierarchy has learned a lesson. And, for me, when it gets to this stage of the season, you play your best team every week, and if you have injuries, that's why you've developed your squad over the season, right? The players who stepped up in other games get to step into that breach, and then they get to shine. That's the way it should be for me, but we'll see from there. But that's the end of this one. Let me know what you think down in the comments.